Hey, all you news junkies out there, it's December 19th, 2024, and man, oh man, are there some headlines today.
Oh,
We've
yeah.
got Elon Musk going at it with the GOP,
Uh,
a crazy lawsuit that could totally change college financial aid,
yeah.
and international sanctions are heating up.
Sounds like a lot to cover.
You ready to dive in?
Let's do it. Lots to unpack.
All right. First up, Elon Musk.
Oh, fair.
You know, the tech CEO turned political commentator is going head-to-head with the Republicans over this proposed government funding bill.
I think what's really interesting here is how Musk is using his huge platform on X,
Formerly Twitter, right?
right, formerly Twitter, to try to directly influence politics, He's posted like 70 times in the last 24 hours.
Wow, 70.
Yeah, calling the $1.59 trillion spending package a disaster.
He's not holding back. And with what, like 250 million followers?
Something like that, yeah,
That's a lot of eyes on this issue.
for sure.
And a lot of pressure on Republican leadership, right? Especially with that January 19th funding deadline coming up.
Absolutely. This could lead to leadership challenges within the GOP.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe some alternative funding proposals as they try to, please Musk and also beat the clock.
And then there's the markets.
Don't even get me started.
Investors hate uncertainty. So a potential government shutdown could really shake things up.
Yeah, a shutdown would not be good. This isn't just some political fight, it
Yeah.
could affect everyone.
Okay, well now for a story that might hit a little closer to home for some of you. There's this massive lawsuit
I saw this.
against some big-name universities about how they do financial aid.
This case could totally change how we pay for college in America, like completely. $685 million lawsuit
Whoa.
alleging that these universities used, get this, inconsistent and maybe even wrong formulas to figure out how much financial aid students need.
Fun.
And they've allegedly been doing this for over 20 years.
So for 20 years, students might have been overcharged
Potentially, yeah.
or even denied aid they should have gotten.
It's possible.
That's
If
crazy.
this lawsuit wins,
Yeah.
we could see some big changes. Think standardized aid calculations everywhere,
Okay.
stricter oversight on those university financial aid offices, and maybe even retroactive aid adjustments for the students who were cheated.
This is huge for anyone who's ever had to deal with college financial aid,
Oh, yeah.
which is pretty much everyone who went to college.
It's a system that needs fixing, for sure.
Yeah, right.
Transparency and fairness in how we pay for education are so important,
Yeah.
especially with how expensive college is.
All right, for our last deep dive today, we're going over to Bosnia and Herzegovina,
Okay.
where the U.S. Treasury is going after Republika Srpska President Milorad Dodik's financial network.
Dodik's been in trouble a lot this year. The U.S. has already put sanctions on him a bunch of times.
Yeah.
For corruption and messing with democracy.
And it sounds like he's been using shell companies
Oh, for sure.
and even getting his family involved
Classic.
to hide his assets and avoid those sanctions.
That's right. This time they've gone after his son, Igor, his cousin, Alexander Dobrik,
Wow.
and even a minister from Bosnia, Stasa Kosarak, who they say helped Dodik do all this shady stuff. It really shows how deep this corruption goes.
So what happens now?
Well, we could see even more sanctions for sure. They might start looking more closely at international finance to stop this kind of thing. And this could even make things unstable in the region if they keep pushing.
3 very different stories,
Yeah.
but they all could cause some major waves.
Absolutely. They all touch on some big themes we see happening all over the world. People using their power to challenge the way things are, systemic issues coming to light,
Yeah.
and global efforts to stop corruption and support democratic values.
A lot to think about, and we're just getting started. We'll be back after a quick break to go even deeper into these stories and what they mean for you. Stay with us.
That college financial aid lawsuit really got me thinking about all the crazy stuff with college funding.
Oh yeah, it's so confusing, even for people who, think they know what they're doing.
It is, and this lawsuit says that these universities were using all these different formulas.
So like different formulas for different students.
Yeah, potentially, which could have meant some students were getting less aid than they should have.
Less aid. That's a big deal. I mean, think about it.
Huge.
A student's ability to go to college, their future, student loans.
All of it.
It's crazy to think that this could have gone on for so long.
It really makes you wonder about, oversight and accountability. Like, was this intentional or just a mess? Either way, it's not good.
Not at all.
Yeah.
And if this lawsuit makes universities be more transparent about how they decide on financial aid, it could change everything.
It really could, especially for students from low-income families who really need that aid.
Okay, well, speaking of people using their power, let's get back to Elon Musk and his fight against the GOP spending bill. It's like the perfect example of how social media has changed politics.
It's crazy, right? We've never seen anything like this before. One person with a huge online platform can basically pressure politicians directly,
Wow.
skipping the whole traditional media thing and changing public opinion, like, instantly.
It's not just about the number of followers, though, is it?
No.
It's how he uses his platform to kind of control the story, you know?
Exactly. He's a master of those short, attention-grabbing tweets and headlines.
Yeah.
You know, in today's world where everyone's bombarded with information, that's how you cut through all the noise.
But it also makes you wonder about social media in a democracy.
Yeah.
But on the one hand, it can be a great way for people to get involved.
Yeah, give a voice to people who might not be heard otherwise.
But then it can also create these echo chambers where misinformation spreads like wildfire and the loudest voices drown everyone else out.
It's a double-edged sword for sure. We're still figuring out how to use it responsibly.
Totally agree. And that conversation's only going to get more important as we head into an election year.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, before we wrap up, let's go back to the U.S. Treasury going after Milorad Dodik's financial network in Bosnia. It might seem kind of far removed, but it actually connects to some important stuff happening closer to home.
Right. It reminds us that corruption is everywhere, and fighting it takes a lot of global teamwork and some serious financial investigations.
It's like those shell companies and hidden assets we see in movies.
Yeah.
They're actually real.
They are. People use them all the time to get around sanctions, launder money, and mess with democracies all over the world.
And the fact that they're going after Dodik's son, his cousin, and even a government minister shows how deep this stuff goes.
It's like a huge, tangled web.
But it's super important work because ultimately, corruption breaks down trust in the government,
Oh, yeah.
undermines the rule of law, and hurts the economy.
It can affect everyone, not just the countries involved.
You know what's interesting?
Wait.
These three stories we talked about today, Elon Musk and the GOP, the college financial aid lawsuit, and the sanctions against Dodik, they all have some things in common.
They do. It's all about how people in institutions are using their power, messing with the rules, and trying to figure out this crazy mix of politics, money, and technology.
It's a lot to keep up with, and it's changing all the time.
It is, but that's our job as, informed citizens try to make sense of it all.
We've covered a lot today,
We have.
but there's always more to learn. We'll be right back to wrap things up and share some final thoughts.
It's wild, right? How these things that seem totally separate, like a tech CEO going off on Twitter, a lawsuit about financial aid, and sanctions in another country, all kind of tie back to these big trends that are shaping the world.
It really is. It's like a global tapestry,
Yeah.
All these threads of politics and economics and tech and human behavior all mixed together. And as news junkies, it's our job to see the patterns and understand how it all connects.
Yeah, exactly. So when you're scrolling through your newsfeed today and you see all these headlines, try to think about those underlying currents, those connections that link these seemingly random events. Because when you understand those deeper forces, that's when you really start to get how complex our world is. And maybe even get a glimpse of what the future holds.
What's really interesting to me is how these stories show the power of individuals to make a difference. Like Elon Musk using his platform to shape the political conversation.
Right.
Or those students who stood up and said, hey, this system isn't fair.
It's a good reminder that even when it feels like everything's controlled by huge institutions and systems, individuals can still make waves and push for change.
Totally. And it shows how important it is to stay informed, stay engaged, and speak up for what you believe in.
You got it. We have access to so much information these days.
Right.
But it's more important than ever to be smart about what we're reading, question what we see, and try to understand different points of view.
It's not enough to just, passively read the news. We have to actively engage with it, think critically, and connect the dots to see the bigger picture.
And that's what we try to do here on The Deep Dive. We want to give you, our listeners, the knowledge and tools to understand this crazy, ever-changing world.
We hope today's deep dive gave you something to think about and made you want to learn more. Be sure to check out the Videntis for more updates and analysis on these stories and lots more.
And until next time, keep those news junkie brains working, keep asking those questions, and keep exploring this amazing world around us.
Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.